thank you for saying yes for this interview. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you are doing in connection with this discussion we have had at PO.
Okay. Yes. My name is Norun Grande and I work at Nansen Center for Peace and Dialogue, and we are based in Lillehammer in Norway. It's 2.5 hours north of Oslo, and we are there at the folk high school. So we are a peace center at a school that is teaching human rights and peace. We have, for the last 10 years, worked with diaspora groups in Norway because we find it's a right thing to do to have dialogues on peace with people who come from war zones. What we have experienced is that they are motivated to work for peace in their region. They're all the time thinking about the country they had to leave, and they really have this vision and this idea that they want to do something. And so what we do is that we facilitate dialogues, and we have seminars and trainings with diaspora groups.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Shivara. I work for Ethiopian Canal. My first question is, what's peace?
What is peace? Well, that is a very big and a very interesting and important question.
Thank you.
I think peace is about a society where you don't have to use violence when you solve conflicts. That you have other means of solving conflicts, because there are always conflicts in society, and that is what develops society also, to deal with conflict, but to find the non-violent ways. That is what peace is about. That you can talk with the people that you are enemies with, and that you can also have some kind of trust in people, that they are not going to abuse you or your family, and this is important in peace.
Okay, what are the major factors which hinders peace in the world?
The major factor is, I think, power, greed for power. Okay. That there are many political leaders that do not hesitate to use violence to stay in power and to get what they need. I think that is the main reason for war, because they see this as the violence as a mean to get what they achieve something that they cannot do otherwise.
And also maybe resources,
yes.
Sure.
Of course, sometimes wars are about very specific interests, economic interests, or access to land, for example, these kind of things. But I mean, if it has to be some people who exploits the situation to have a war, because people can also solve these disputes without war if there is a mutual trust between them.
Is religion also a factor, maybe?
Well, I don't think religion is a reason for war, but I think sometimes leaders use religion as one way of mobilizing for war.
How important is peace to fight poverty?
To fight poverty, how important is peace? I think the results in the long run are better if you are able to fight for poverty with peaceful means. Yeah. But sometimes it is maybe not possible. Because
it doesn't have?
No. Sometimes it's not possible because the power is so uneven,
Okay.
But the regime in power has so strong army, and so it's difficult to fight against
Poverty
poverty
using
with peaceful means.
I mean, I can ask the answer. If the world was peaceful,
Yes.
would there be poverty? If there was no conflict in the world,
If I think you can, it could be poverty anyway, but it could be ways of solving poverty.
would be easier.
But I think maybe what you want to, the question you want to
Yeah.
ask is about what it comes first, to fight against poverty or the peace.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, we can take it that way.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And that is a dilemma sometimes.
Or just now the politicians or UN or big organizations, they allocate most of the budget on development and something, not on peace,
Yeah.
fight poverty. But the main cause for the poverty can be maybe conflict, not lack of resources or. So I want to ask that why.
Yeah.
If we do more research on peace, maybe
Yes.
poverty may go down. Maybe.
Yes, hopefully.
Do you think peace comes from individual citizens in a country or in the world, or does it come from big nations like President Obama or the ones that will hold the decisions? Do you think it helps if one talks to them, they can bring peace on earth?
I think peace has to be fought for by all people. I mean, it comes from, it's up to me and you and everyone, and it's our responsibility, because what we can see is that we cannot rely on the political leaders. They have been fighting wars, and if this should change, people have to oppose against that. It has to be a reaction from below, from the grassroots.
My last question. You finished that?
Yes.
Okay. How big is big research internationally in Norway? Because I don't know any peace research institute in Ethiopia, is there?
But you have to ask the people. I'm not working at a Peace Research Institute. I'm working at a dialogue center.
Okay.
So you have to ask them. But I think it would be Peace Research in the field. I'm sure it is. But you should ask.
Yeah.
It is.
I will ask, but as a peace researcher, you have for example, how big is in the US or in Europe? Or, do you think it is? Are there enough research institutions?
No. I mean it's more research on war than it is on peace.
Okay.
And that is, it should be the opposite. It's
More
on peace and less on.
That's interesting.
Very nice to say that.
It would have been your position.
Yes.
It should have been the opposite. Yes.
But I have one last question.
Okay.
The organization you work for, how aware are you about what's going on in Ethiopia regarding human rights?
That's interesting.
And also regarding the refugees live in Norway, 700 refugees without work, without any paper, almost 2 years now. How aware and what are you doing about it? What do you think about this issue?
Yeah, we have not been working specifically with Ethiopia. We know about a little bit about the situation, but not too much. So I'm glad that you also are telling us something about that situation, because we have been working more on other countries like Afghanistan and Somalia. But what we see is that there are some of the same problems for the refugees and asylum seekers. I think the situation is the same. I mean, people are returned and they live under bad conditions in Norway, and we are aware about that. But it is not our mandate to work on specifically on asylum seekers. But we want to raise also this question to our governments when we have a chance to do that. Because what we see is that it is not a good situation for people. We feel that it would have been a much better policy for Norway if people had got some positive out of being in Norway. If you get training, if you get education and skills, that would be beneficial if you live like in Norway or if you go back to Ethiopia. So this kind of training should start from day one when you come, not having people living in passivity in the hostels like it is today and being afraid of being returned every day like that.
That's the other torture, because they run away from such torture, and they are in. But one last question, because I hear sometimes from the Norwegian authorities, they say the human rights problem in Ethiopia is not really as bad as it is, for example, in Somalia. And that means, okay, there is human rights abuse problem in Ethiopia. People do get hurt, people do go into exile, but when you look at it from the point of view of peace, work for peace, there is a thing as you are damaged, but you are less damaged than this damaged, but you have both of you lost your legs. Is there something like that in the peace? I mean, how is it affecting the peace thought, the safety, idea of safety? Even if, I mean, a woman who's beat by her husband today, here, she would not go to him next time. It's the same thing as the one who got beat up in 3 days continuously. When you think about the safety thing, what's the difference between Somalia and Ethiopia?
I don't know. I really don't know, because I don't have enough knowledge about it. I'm sorry about that.
Thank you for coming to this interview. But you know, I didn't get all the responsibilities you had in regards to this conference. Can you tell us about it?
What was my role in organizing the conference?
And your position.
What was it all about?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm working here at CREO as a senior researcher, and together with my colleague Rajan Azati, we're writing a book chapter for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where we're discussing this topic of migration and new foreign policy realities.
Okay.
So you know, in a lot of particularly countries in Europe, often immigration is framed as a problem. Of course, it's also an opportunity, and there's opportunities in the labor market, and there are also discussions about how it's enriching and these kinds of perspectives. But often there's a problem focus as well, and more on the immigration side than the foreign affairs side. So the idea is to try and discuss how migration is a both foreign policy issue and a national matter. And also sort of acknowledging that migrants are both immigrants from their country of origin and immigrants to their new country of settlement. And both these two sides of migrants' lives need to be acknowledged. So this is one of our main perspectives.
What's the relation with peace there?
With peace? Well, of course, a lot of migration happens as a consequence of lack of peace. So because of violent conflict. Or it could also be maybe not exactly violent conflict, but say market failure or, indirect consequences of conflict. But I think also increasingly migration globally is framed in terms of economic inequalities. So people are seeking a life, a better life opportunities.
So the cause is peace, lack of peace.
It could, very often it's lack of peace, but I guess peace can be defined in, more inclusive ways or very narrowly. So if you call peace just lack of peace is just armed conflict, then there are many countries that are peaceful. But if you acknowledge that lack of peace could be lack of human rights or discrimination, democracy, these kinds of things, opportunities in the labor market, that kind of thing, then it's a bigger issue.